And welcome to another edition of South Texas Crossfire. This is Attorney Joe Flores reminding you to join us each and every week right here on KTMV. Special shout out to Carlos Lopez' daddy, Humberto Lopez, for making this happen. Over 50 years of broadcasting, and I hear he's convalescing well. All our prayers are out to him. And let's not forget our sister station out there in Channel 21, K Alamo in San Antonio, Texas, and in Laredo. You'll be seeing this in two parts out there. And now on YouTube, you can see us anytime at www.youtube.com. Search term South Texas Crossfire or Joe Flores. With me today, I have the distinct pleasure of introducing Mr. Bill Edwards. Let me tell you, the chairman of the Board of Law Practice here in South Texas and Texas. He was one of the first, and I'm a great admirer of his. I'll tell you why. Because for 5 decades, he started out advocating solely for plaintiffs, for the aggrieved, for the injured. He's taken on the biggest corporations in America. He is licensed U.S. Supreme Court, most of the circuits. Let me tell you, this guy, he walks it like he talks it, and we're going to be talking today, so grab the family, grab the popcorn, get the water, the sodas, because wrap around the TV, you're going to learn not only about the law, but you're also going to learn in the second half about some of the things that we're doing to police ourselves as a profession. Welcome, Bill. Thank you so much for coming on.
It's a real pleasure to be here.
Now, I'm used to calling you Mr. Edwards, but for the show, permission to call you Bill?
I've got to say this, Mr. Edwards got to go.
Yeah, Mr. Edwards got to go. And you've seen him on TV a lot, and you know, he does everything. Let me tell you, this guy walks in the courtroom for car wrecks, for med mal, for serious accidents. I mean, he just tries it all. So that's why we're going to be here today talking about that. Now, Bill, let's just jump in feet first. What brought you to South Texas? And you were the first guy to make your own plaintiff law firm in '62. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I started out, came from the University of Virginia, took a job with Baker Botts, big law firm in Houston, as a tax lawyer.
Oh, wow, tax lawyer. No wonder you came down here quickly. Yeah.
And there I was working for Jim Baker's dad, the original Jim Baker. I mean, not the original Jim Baker, the Baker son, who's the father of the Jim Baker who was the Secretary of State.
Only known nationwide and worldwide, yeah. So what was it like starting out there at a defense firm, and what kind of perspective did it give you?
Well, I was doing tax work. I was representing big corporations, and you know, some of the things I was asked to do weren't really very pleasant.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, for example, I'll give you an example.
Okay.
And it was only because I came down, I didn't know what the story was, I'm sure. On June 19th, my first June 19th, that's Juneteenth in Houston. Great
barbecue that day.
I was given some eviction papers by Jim Baker to take to an old black woman in the 5th Ward to evict her. And I went over there like I knew what I was doing, but I really didn't.
Right. And so you went out there Juneteenth, you know, at Black Emancipation Day in Texas, for those of you watching worldwide, and in the 5th Ward, which is predominantly black.
Correct.
So you go over there, serve the papers, and what went through your mind?
I didn't have anything going through my mind, but if I knew then what I know now, I wouldn't have gone.
Yeah, and I guess that's what made you clear a path to Corpus Christi.
You got it.
So tell me about how hard was it when you were one of the first plaintiff lawyers? And you know, a lot of people say, "Oh, the good old days, the good old days." Well, I talked to Judge Searden and some other people. They said they weren't that much of the good old days. It was hard, and it's always been hard for people who've been injured.
Well, I can tell you, I'm probably the only lawyer in Texas who had to go to the Court of Appeals 3 times in each case in the beginning.
No settlement offers were forthcoming.
No, I'd get kicked out on a summary judgment before we ever tried the case. I would lose the case. I'd get it reversed. Go back, try the case, and lose the case because the judges were all in favor of the corporations and the defense. And I'd go again, get that reversed because it was maybe against the evidence in the case, and then come back and maybe I'd get a settlement. I know one case I tried 3 times.
Well, and you know, a lot of us now that are up and coming lawyers, you know, we're saying, oh, the new tort reform, we're going to be talking about that. You know, like myself had a strong healthcare background, went in it, worked with Miss Snapka, a good friend of yours, and we went in there, but come 2003, lightning strikes and tort reform came in there, and you know, medical malpractice. I know that you are one of the premier medical malpractice lawyers in the U.S., and and it's dried up. It has hurt a lot of people, but you're still trying the cases.
Well, I'm getting tired of having to tell people that I can't do it because they're not going to get anything out of it. You know, you have somebody who's a close relative, a loved one, is killed through the negligence of a doctor or a hospital, and then you've got to tell them, well, I'm sorry, the total amount that you may recover in this case is $250,000, and it's all covered up with liens for medical liens and other things, and by the time you're through with expert witnesses and attorney's fees, you go in and you have $200,000 in settlement, and you have to explain to a client why they're only going to see $10,000 out of that. I just don't do that anymore.
It just doesn't make a lot of sense. Ladies and gentlemen out there, since 2003, with Proposition 12 that was promulgated to Chapter 74, the Medical Liability Act, and this is not just, you know, because Barack Obama recently addressed the AMA on this issue. So I want everybody nationwide who's watching this on the internet to understand our dilemma as trial lawyers. I've always said this on the show. Insurance companies, big business, boy, they do a good job of trying to keep the lawyer apart from his client and keep those courthouse doors closed. So when I bring on attorneys that are educating us on this, that is why, you know, one of the topics we're talking about today is medical malpractice here with Bill Edwards of the Edwards Law Firm, founding partner. Let me ask you this. I mean, there are still cases that can be tried but on medical malpractice, but it's difficult, isn't it?
It is difficult, and although they can be tried, the result may not be at all satisfactory. The last one I tried to verdict, the defense in that case, and I established this, there's an affidavit on file in the courthouse on this, the defense spent more than $1 million on the defense of that case, in which the total exposure was $250,000.
I mean, that is just unbelievable. What about, I know that a lot of people try to understand the difference between non-economic and economic damages, and what I've tried to educate people on here, Bill, is I've told people, you know, it's not fair that a little old lady who gets mistreated and starved and abused in a nursing home doesn't get as much as an electrical engineer who they killed on the operating table. Well, and can you kind of touch on that? Why is that difference in there, and why is it so unfair?
Well, the cap is on what they call non-economic damage. That's everything other than what you earn. Everything other than what you earn. Now, if you have a commercial case, it's all economic damage. But when you start talking about medical malpractice, there's a $250,000 cap on non-economic damage.
And that's pain, suffering?
Pain, suffering, grief and anguish, loss of companionship, loss of the quality of life, loss of physical capacity. For example, a housewife who has no earning capacity and loses both legs in an accident has a tremendous loss of physical capacity and maybe not too much loss of wage earning capacity. $250,000, $125,000 a leg.
It's just not right, Bill. It's
No.
just not right. You know, I know that back in 2003, I sat in a room where Bill Edwards led the charge to try to stop this, and by a narrow margin, this law passed.